even though I make my living selling tea on the internet, in my identity, I still think of myself as a xiangcheng performer. There's so much that comes along with that.
It's more like jazz.
Yeah.
Once you know the form, you can transform anything into jazz music. And once you enjoy that, you cannot stop doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you're like acting yourself.
A person who tells jokes to other people is a comedian.
You're right.
A person who tells jokes to themselves is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
欢迎大家来解析茶馆. Welcome to Jesse's Teahouse, Tea Time with Jesse today. Very special episode today. We have on Henry Tang, who is a traditional Pingshu performer. I am a traditional Chinese xiangcheng comedy performer, so for the first time, I kind of have a little old Beijing
combination.
Combination of the show. Very excited to have you on to talk about traditional Chinese performance art. If you guys are new to the show, we drink tea, we talk about fun stuff. And Henry, why don't you give everybody a little brief introduction?
All right, my name is Henry Tang. I'm from Beijing, China. I'm a professional Beijing storytelling performer / fine art shipping specialist. And pretty much that's it.
That's it. That's already a lot to unpack. So.
And I can do it in Chinese if you want.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, 来一个中文的啊。
中文的。
您自我介绍一下。
评书演员汤凡。各位幸会。
非常感谢。I love Beijing is like my home, my second home. I love Beijing, and so it's really cool to be able to introduce everybody to this traditional Beijing storytelling art form called Pingshu. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of performance for everybody. Is that okay?
By all means.
But before we get started with the show, I wanted to start making the tea. And today for the tea, I've selected this three treasures, Sanbao Cha. This is 陈皮白茶。
这个好。
Yeah, 所以这个好。所以这个是用那个 they use a rice stalk in order to do it together. And it's aged 陈皮 from 现辉 and then 福鼎白茶, 福鼎 white tea.
那您这是哪儿的茶呢？
这是福鼎，这是那个福建福鼎。福建福鼎的白茶。
好。
So this is when I was thinking about what tea to make you, I was like, it's 你能来到这儿表演非常宝贵，建议做一个三宝茶。
谢谢您，谢谢，
这个好，
谢谢。
就是谐音梗。I'm like, if I don't have a pun in what tea I chose, I'm not a good xiangcheng performer, am I? So for these, I usually unwrap it just so it can kind of get opened. We can put it right there. Very good.
您的这个茶是太讲究。
有点讲究。So I got into tea when I was in Beijing at the Maliandao 茶厂。
知道。
Yeah. So the Maliandao Tea Market is like the biggest market in China. That's where I got my start doing the tea stuff. So. Very
got
cool.
a variety of teas over there.
They got a little bit of everything. This one we get now directly from Fuding in Fujian. Right. But my start, was so easy to get into tea when you go to Maliandao. There's like 1,000 shops there.
But do you know what kind of tea the real Beijing people drink?
What are the real Beijing people drink?
茉莉花茶.
I was thinking for the second one, we'll do 茉莉花.
高穗.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the Beijing cab drivers, they'll just have the 茉莉花.
A huge part of those.
That's the way to do it. Did you have any specialty that you liked to drink when you were growing up?
高穗.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to buy these days. Used to be the cheapest tea in Beijing, but now it's like the most treacherous kind. You need to know someone from the tea house.
Yeah, you gotta 有点关系。
关系。
你搞一点关系才能得到。Very cool. So this first one, we'll just do a quick wash. 洗一下茶。So yeah, it's great to be able to have tea from old Beijing again. When you, why don't we prepare here? I know that you're going to want to not be drinking while you're performing.
Of course not.
Yes. So why don't we just make one sip here? You can let me know what you think, and then what piece are you going to perform for us? For
Three Kingdoms.
Okay, great.
三国演义.
这个好. So Three Kingdoms performance piece. And before I should say about this, like the difficulty of, I would do a lot more traditional Chinese stuff on the channel if I had people to help me translate it, because it's hard to translate. But Henry, you've volunteered to help translate
I volunteered. It takes a lot of things for the translation between Chinese and English, but it's not a one-man job. I also need your help.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll help as much as I can.
Sure.
But this is also that we're able to give you a very like, 正宗很地道.
地道.
Yeah, the most like down to earth, real deal,
authentic
Beijing storytelling art form. Cheers.
Cheers.
哎，喝一口。哎，真好。
好茶。
这个有点那个陈皮的味道很强。
喝出来了。
对，后来这个茶越来越泡开了，那个白茶的味道就出来了。
现在是陈皮的味儿多一点。
这陈皮的味儿多。
还会喝。
我们就欢迎我们的这个
汤凡
先生，给我们表演一段三国的评书，《
三国演义》的片段。
大家掌声鼓励，哎。
好，请各位赏下耳音。建安13年秋7月丙午日，曹操亲率50万大兵兵发江汉。荆州牧刘表死了，刘表的儿子刘琮顺从母命归降曹操。那么曹操轻而易举得了金乡水旱马步军28万，又招募新兵，加在一块叫83万人马，诈称100万之众，沿长江下寨，连营300里，平吞江夏呀，虎视江东，就跟一只大老虎似的，蹲在江边看着江东。这下东吴的人可都急了，上至孙权，下至士卒儿郎、黎民百姓都急了，这仗没法打。怎么呢？人家曹操叫83万人，诈称100万，东吴呢，上阵临敌者呀不足5万。您算这算数，一个5，一83，曹操的人跪在这儿不动，您东吴的人过去，一人一口刀，把胳膊剁折了，斩不尽，杀不绝，这仗没法打。那么急得孙权叫寝食俱废，什么意思？说大白话，吃不下饭，睡不着觉。可就惊动了孙权的母亲吴国太，吴国太前来探望孙权。那么孙权一看母亲来了，赶忙起身施礼：“儿参见国太。儿啊，如今曹兵压境，是战是降，你可有对策吗？”这个国太，如今文官要降，武将要战，而我一时拿不出决策。儿啊，你忘了吗？你兄长孙策、孙伯符临终之时托付于你，东吴若有大事，内事不决问张昭，外患不决问周郎。现而今你为什么不调周瑜、周公瑾回柴桑议事啊？哎呀，国太一句话叫一语点醒梦中人。那么孙权赶忙起身：“儿谢国太。”吴国太走了。打这儿说孙权又打鄱阳湖调回周瑜、周公瑾，周瑜回到柴桑郡，过江请来诸葛孔明，孙刘联兵，兵合一处，将打一家，大破曹兵啊，83万。谢谢。Thank you.
谢谢。
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very, very cool. So we will hopefully, by the time this comes out, have that totally subtitled so people were following along. But what is this that we just saw?
It's a one of the famous episode in the whole story of Three Kingdoms. One of the major naval battles between the warlords Cao Cao and Liu Bei and Sun Quan. There are, of course, three kingdoms. I mean, three major warlords fighting each other, where Cao Cao is the most powerful warlord with most advantage of army, weapon, logistics, etc., etc. So as the other one, Sun Quan, they only have 50,000 soldiers. And they don't have enough manpower, plus all the logistics they need to fight against Cao Cao. So they form a coalition forces with another warlord, Liu Bei. So 2 against 1.
Yeah.
So that's all about the Red Cliff naval battle. Wow. 赤壁之战.
Yeah. Red Cliff. Oh, they have lots of Red Cliff movies as well. If you want to see Red Cliff
so that's the beginning part of that episode, Red Cliff.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So what time period, just whereabouts is this?
Oh, that's that's Donghan.
So that's That's what, like 200s, 300s?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, so around 2,000 years ago. Not quite 2,000, but close to that.
Yeah, 2nd century, 3rd century.
And so these stories, I mean, this the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a famous example, but this is the type of story that you might tell in the traditional Beijing storytelling.
That's one of the typical stories we're gonna give, because each storyteller, they have their own style, like 派别. For instance, I'm 连派. So 连派评书 is more specialized in war movies per se. 我们叫这个袍带书. 袍带书就是骑马打仗.
Yeah. So like war stories, I suppose. Yeah.
杨家将啊，薛家将啊，这叫袍带书. So in terms of movie, we might call it war movies or the others performers may specialize in 短打书. 短打书 is more like action movies.
Yeah.
三侠五义啊，七侠五义啊，这种就是侠客.
Very cool.
So different performers,
styles,
they have different styles, specialties.
And the Three Kingdoms is also a piece that I love because one of the 相声 pieces that I do with Ding Lao Shi, we do a version of 黄鹤楼.
黄鹤楼, Liu Bei, right?
Liu Bei, but we change it to we call it 唱三国. And so it's singing the Three Kingdoms.
山人送主公.
Yeah. So like so Ding Lao Shi and I would be on stage and I'd say something like, oh, like, 杰西你最近在哪儿啊？我回美国，我在那边创办了一个京剧艺术团。你也唱京剧啊？你唱什么戏啊？唱哪段？我们唱这个三国为主。那三国我们唱一点三国。So he's thinking we're going to sing the Three Kingdoms of Wei, Shu, and Wu, and I think we're thinking of the Three Kingdoms of America, Mexico, and Canada.
Oh, I thought.
So like
used to be China and the U.S. and Soviet Russia.
Yeah, like 总统，你叫我这总统啊，你得叫我主公，主公，我称总主公啊。And then so we get into the all of the culture and stuff through that as well. So it's great to be able to hear this. And I'm sure it came across to you guys on camera, but imagine being in the room, sitting and listening to that kind of storytelling and having the performer really be on it.
Plus a combination of tea.
Yes,
and the storytelling. It used to be storytelling must be in the tea house.
Yeah, so let's talk about this now. We'll talk a little bit about the tea house culture and then get more into the storytelling. So,
of course.
People may not know, but my original idea for Jesse's Tea House, Jesse's Jaguar, was actually during the pandemic when I was still doing social media very strongly in China. I have a lot of followers in China, and I was figuring out how to do shows for them.
Right.
And so I had the idea of doing like an online tea house where we'd be able to do xiangsheng, but also stand up, and also the podcast.
The podcast.
I actually like. Interestingly enough, even though podcasting is new, I feel like podcasting culture fits very well with the Chaguar like kind of culture.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was the original idea, and then it turned out that you guys online in the Western internet got really into the tea, and so I started making more videos over there, and the original idea kind of got distracted. But when I say Jesse's Tea House, it doesn't just mean the tea; it means all of this.
all together, right?
And so, why don't you explain to people what does a traditional Beijing tea house look like? What is it like?
Well, it depends. The tea house, there are two kinds of tea house in Beijing. In old days, one is by its mean literally tea house where you drink tea and talk, like the Starbucks of Chinese
like
version
cafe.
of cafe. But the other tea house is more a combination of tea. Drinking plus storytelling on stage, or maybe xiangsheng on stage. So it's a combination where they sell tea and snacks, like a lot of snacks and tea, and and where you can buy tickets. But this tickets contains both the tea and the performing on stage.
So you get like snacks, a show. You can watch the different performers, and they'll have storytelling. They'll have xiangsheng.
Right. Variety show.
Yeah, variety show. 综艺. At the I performed at the Lao She Chaguar. Yeah, Lao She Tea House in
that's
Beijing.
Actually that's where my teachers performing.
Really? That's well. That means that this is a big place to perform in Beijing. So it's definitely the environment you go in, and it's absolutely beautiful. There's this big performance room with a big stage, and if you go to their regular show, they'll have some jokes, a little storytelling, but they'll also do like a little acrobatics or even gong fu or something like that. And then they also do, I don't know the name in Chinese, what's the technique where they have that very long pot? You know, they have like a pot of like for pouring tea.
Oh, 你说那个龙嘴茶壶
龙嘴茶壶 Yeah. They will throw this pot around
and then with a long
pour into the teacup with the pot. I wanted to get taught how to do that.
But that takes a lot of exercise.
No, yeah, I found a teacher actually who trains students to be able to do that.
Do that?
Yeah, do that. And I asked, I was like, would it be possible to like learn it in just like, you know, like have a little bit of fun and do like 2 hours and learn a little?
I don't think so. Like, I think it takes years.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do. But anyway, this whole of the tea house culture is really what one of the things I wanted to bring about because, you know, tea is so much more fun with a show.
Right, exactly. any combination, I mean.
So the old Beijing tea houses, this was sort of, this was a tradition that was within the city of Beijing.
Yeah.
Is it just Beijing that has that tea house?
No, all over China, I would say each province, they have their own version of tea house and storytelling. Like Pinghua, which is southern part of the Suzhou Pinghua, Yangzhou Pinghua. They do in their own local dialect. Sichuan Pingshu, Sichuan 有评书. Sichuan Pingshu, they perform in their Sichuanhua.
So,
of course, the main is the Mandarin. We're in Beijing and Dongbei, a lot of places. But nowadays, it's very difficult to find a really live storytelling tea house. Not much.
It's not as big as it used to be.
No, it used to be they have. My teacher told me like in the early 50s, there are nearly 200 different tea houses with different storytelling performers in Beijing alone, in Tianqiao.
Oh yeah, just in the Tianqiao area. That's also where the xiangsheng originated from. So this is why, I mean, I was so happy to be able to have Henry over because I wasn't even thinking America had anyone who studied Pingshu and like could actually perform. But it's great. You actually live near LA.
I live in Orange County. Yeah.
Orange County, so perfect. So Orange County, weirdly, is like a real hotbed of traditional Chinese culture. There's also like some traditional like shanshui artists that I've met.
Oh, really?
There. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you know, apparently there's a lot of old Beijingers who have moved to Orange County.
I'm one of those.
There we go.
Yeah.
So very cool. So. We just heard this story, this Pingshu story. Tell us a little bit more about Pingshu and how it originated.
Pingshu originated in late 19th century, early 20th century. 清末民初. 清朝末年.
So towards the end of the Qing dynasty and the beginning of the Mingguo. How do you say in English? The Republic.
Republic of China. Yeah.
So it is an old art form, but compared to some in China, it's relatively new.
Right.
Relatively.
But still, it's an old form of folk art per se. It's over 100 years.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning, it's only only a small part of the Manchurians. They have nothing to do, so they go to the tea house, they do storytelling, and story itself is very limited. Because they're Manchurians, they do most likely the Qing dynasty stories. 康熙私访, 永庆生平, 雍正剑侠图, most likely connected with the Manchurian royal family and their adventures. Their version of Three Musketeers.
So the Qing dynasty was, the emperors were ethnic Manchurians that came from the area that is now like Dongbei in China, northeastern China. And then when they established the Qing dynasty, they kind of established themselves as the rulers, and so it kind of makes sense that they would have in a tea house in the old Beijing, and in the old city of Beijing, originally only Manchurians were allowed in the walled city.
Downtown area.
So if you were downtown, everybody was Manchu.
Right.
And so everybody would be interested in hearing the old war stories.
They're all glorious times, old times. Yeah.
So that was kind of the origination was Manchu, but nowadays obviously many people listen.
As long as it turns to Mingguo and more and more performers are learning those techniques of storytelling, so it can be different stories.
Nice.
And like Donghan, Xihan, Sanguo, Sui Tang. Also like other how would I say it? 西游记.
Yeah, like Journey to the West.
聊斋.
Yep. Many of these, this is a cool thing about the Chinese history being so long is you have unbelievable amount of stories.
But 聊斋 is more than ghost stories. They also have love stories, etc., etc. So, variety of contents can be transformed into the form of storytelling. Like it's more like jazz.
Yeah.
If you know the rhythm, if you know the technique, you can transform any song or music into jazz.
Yes.
You can re-perform, regroup, and then it want to perform again.
I like that sort of jazz storytelling because it is like that. Like, it's 相声 as well. There's a script, but if you just like do the script, then it feels very dead.
Exactly.
It feels dead. So for the piece that you just performed, how much of that was memorized? How much of that is feel? How different would one performance of yours be to another?
Everyone is different, and it depends on how you understand the story. As a performer, you have to, if you want to perform one story or one section of one novel, you have to read through all the novel, and you have to understand it. Plus your screenwriting, your understanding, your own ideas. 评书 is not actually storytelling. It's not accurate. Storytelling just tell the story. So like you can tell any story, or a movie, or a Hollywood movie, or you tell people how it goes, what happened, and you can make that fun. But that's only part of the storytelling. The other part is 评.
Yeah.
评 means analyze.
Yeah. So 评 is analyze.
Situation analysis.
Yeah. So 评 means analyze. 书 in this case
the
means
story.
Book or story.
Yeah.
But so you're not just telling the thing like,
Right.
okay, they told me to say this.
Yeah.
You're really thinking about like, what are the characters thinking here?
Why he think that one? Why he do this? Why he do that? Yeah.
And then also adding in the performance element of it. Somebody, they get their arm cut off or something.
That's what we learn from the Peking opera. You have to. For my teacher always told me, if you want to learn storytelling, want to perform storytelling, you have to be familiar with the Peking opera, because a lot of things you do, the voice making, the actions you do is all borrowed from 京剧, like 二参见国台
Yeah.
老生
三将军无需不细进的报
其实
上
跟
未报谁来
其实都是京剧
Yeah, it's like,
If you don't know 京剧, you cannot do this.
Yeah.
And 相声 is like at least you have two people. We can.
Yeah, you have a pacing. This is actually as
just
a comedian.
one man show.
As a comedian, it's much harder to do a one-person thing than a two-person thing. Or I'll put it this way: they're differently difficult, but if you have a second person, you will feel safer at all times.
Yeah, someone can cover your
Someone
six.
can cover you if you mess up because they'll get you back on track. But for a single person, you have to do the whole thing yourself.
You're performing, you're acting for three people or different characters. You have to jump between this person and that person during conversation, and then you have to jump in, jump out.
It's even a lot like modern day stand-up comedy, where it's like
is that more like talk show?
Well, yeah. Well, so there. I mean, obviously in 相声, the traditional 相声, you have the two-person performance. But then even just in stand-up, if you're on stage and you would never say like, and then I called my mom and told her I couldn't get a job, and my mom asked, why couldn't you get a job? And I told her, well, it's not easy. Like, you don't do that. You're like, Mom, I can't get a job. Why can't you get a job? Look, it's not easy. You're
acting jump between the characters,
back and forth, and back to a narrator. So like, and then I told her, well, this is over.
So I guess that's the storytelling. You have to between the narrators and different characters.
And this is one of actually my big areas in which I think Chinese stand-up comedy still has a lot of growth left. Is that it's coming from a lot of people who are thinking of this as like, oh, 我要写段子. Like, I want to write the jokes, as opposed to, for instance, if more Pingshu actors did stand-up, which I'd love to see. If you're a Pingshu performer in China and you have not started doing stand-up, you should definitely try. Don't give up the Pingshu, but also try the other one.
I want to try.
You should try. Well, we'll teach you. We get you
sure.
on stage.
We'll
we don't know the ticket time yet, but Henry's going to try some stand-up, and you should go and watch.
Because I think, after you said, I think the concept is the same thing.
Yeah, I think
because you're between a narrator and the actors and the characters.
Storytelling, pacing. I think the biggest difference between, say, stand-up and Pingshu is that your viewpoint along that world maybe has to be hidden a little bit more. Like
you mean startup
in Pingshu, because in a stand-up, you want to tell people the way you look at the world. You like, I've chosen this topic because I want to talk about this. With a Pingshu, you might have a select group of topics that are kind of regular Pingshu topics.
No, it depends.
You could really just say, can you do Pingshu about like...
That's why we do live storytelling.
Yeah.
If you're doing on radio or TV, there are a lot of things you cannot say you don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Because on TV or radio or even online, you can do only 20 minutes or 30 minutes. They don't give you enough time to analyze or give you your point of view.
Traditionally, if you're going to be in this courtyard for 2 hours, you can talk.
1 hour each week.
1 hour each week. Is that
and
how it
you're
works?
doing a whole story, so you can maybe. I mean, I would say like my 师兄 Wang Yubo, he can do one story in 7 years.
Wow. So he will tell the same
He will
story
add a lot
over.
of things, even jokes or anything. Nothing seems not related to the story episode itself.
But if you listen every week, it comes back.
So I would say he divided like maybe an hour performance of storytelling. There are only sometimes only 10 minutes. Like let's say, okay, we're doing Three Kingdoms today.
Yeah.
So among my 1 hour performance for the episode 1 or episode 2, there are only 10% of the time I'm telling the Three Kingdoms itself. But the other 50 or 45 minutes, he's talking a lot of other interesting things. Wow. So they will attract you to come every week. If I just tell the story itself,
then people, it's just over.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So this is one of the most challenging things I think about the internet is it's allowed us to reach each other and to be able to share this art form with people that may have never known it.
Right.
But it's also getting harder and harder to do these live things. Like, in old Beijing, you want to tell one story every week over 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, now in Beijing, you start a story 7 years later, the place is out of business. Like, the change in society is so fast.
But that's why the Pingshu still stay alive. That's not much other forms of art can do that. So we're one of the few things we can keep doing.
And Pingshu is like, you can really do it anywhere. Like you can perform in any public place, right? Do you need a very specific theater setting in order to do?
No, but there are certain things we cannot do for the empire. Like we don't do in restaurants.
Okay.
We don't do in bars.
Why not?
Because it doesn't, according to my teacher, it didn't respect the actor itself. Because if I'm performing here and you're eating a steak or burger, that
you
wouldn't
need the attention of the audience.
I'm not begging for your
exactly.
tickets.
Yeah.
And then if you do it in a pub or bar, they're drinking, they can be out of control or anything. Other thing is in Teahouse, we sell tea, we sell drinks, we sell snacks. We never sell alcoholic.
Yeah.
And if we sense anyone have drink alcohol, we don't allow them to come in for the performance.
So this is the exact opposite of the American business model, which is the ticket's free and there's a 2-drink minimum.
Right.
So I always thought that was crazy. And when you go to China, I tried to explain to people, like I ran a comedy club in Beijing in the Hutongs. And we tried originally of doing this drink minimum, and Chinese people are like, gosh, like, what is this? Like,
well, they might finish your first drink and go.
Yeah. That was like, it didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah.
But I think that the environment of the performance is obviously very important. And it's nice though to be able to bring the art with you.
Right.
Like if you are a drummer, you need a drum set.
Right, exactly.
But if you're a storyteller, even a xiangsheng performer, you need to have a partner.
Yeah.
But to be able to bring the art with you, it feels really good as a performer.
You have to enjoy. You have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You have to enjoy it. Once you enjoy it, you cannot stop doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so,
you're like acting yourself.
Yeah. What does it feel like to you when you're on stage in the middle of a performance?
At the beginning, you're very nervous. You don't even look at the audience. You can't.
Yeah.
Or someone, if they talk to you, you cannot answer your questions or communicate with them because you're focusing on your own story. If you talk to them, you forget what you're gonna say in the beginning. So when I get off the stage, it's all wet.
Yeah. You get sweaty.
And then you focus on your story. You don't look at any people. You're like performing yourself, like doing this. But once you get along and you start to enjoy the performing, you're kind of, it's like immersive. You're enjoying to the story itself, you're analyzing and you're communicating with the audience. you look around, you can talk to them, joke with them. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. You cannot stop.
It's nice. I mean, it's
and then you don't want to talk to a video or online.
Yeah.
You want live.
Yeah.
You want people, even if we're doing online, we want some audience so they can give me some feedback.
Exactly.
I know if they like it or they don't like it or whatsoever.
Even just here having a small crew, we got a video producer team here.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you just one video setting, I don't like it.
Well, this is the thing that's so hard about what is that thing that makes live performance special? It's really hard to put onto the internet. Like I think with these shows, like I try to bring people into the tea room, but it is different than if you were sitting here in person.
Exactly.
And we gotta do some more live.
I think so.
That
I think any kind of performing arts need audience, like concert.
Yeah.
Or football.
Yeah.
Or basketball.
Yeah.
I would imagine they don't want to just play without anyone watching them give it how.
Well, I mean, I had that joke I wrote. It was like during the pandemic, I definitely felt this way as a comedian because I couldn't perform anywhere, and I realized that a person who tells jokes to other people is a comedian.
Right.
A person who tells jokes to themselves is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Because basically you are crazy because you're.
It's like I
don't know what's the English 人格分裂.
Yeah, like a split personality.
Yeah, because you're doing a different thing. You're talking to, and then people watch you.
The most embarrassing thing as a comedian is if people who are not comedians walk in backstage before the show.
And you're doing this. Yeah.
I want to hit like, what is that like? You know, open. Okay, well, I need to open the. Like, you know, I'm like doing all these.
Not
like,
only
practices.
the backstage. Sometimes on the street or driving, you do this.
Oh yeah. Oh, I did that.
Because you're practicing. You're thinking of something.
Yeah.
我是不是应该这么说？我这样说。
Yeah,
But you're
yeah.
on the street.
Yeah.
What the heck is he doing?
I would literally, when I was practicing xiangsheng in China, I would have my electric motorcycle and I'd be zooming by on the second ring road and I'd be singing, 祝共上马先
and someone will be watching.
And then if I'm moving fast enough, I guess it's not a problem.
Right.
But then if I slow down, I'm at a stoplight.
People were staring at you. What, this guy crazy or what?
Yeah, especially as a foreigner. Like, even weirder. But it was definitely a great place to practice, and you kind of always have to be running the scripts in your head.
That's what they say, practice make perfect. If you don't practice, you just follow the script, you're not I would imagine you're not a good actor. You are an actor, but you're not a good actor.
Yeah, so it's always about practice. Let's talk a little bit about the clothes. We
Sure,
didn't talk about the clothes.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are these robes?
大褂。
大褂。没错。
实际是，你看这叫实际不是唐装，好多人说是唐装，这不是。
Yeah, so it's
其实这是旗装。
旗装。
因为你看旗袍是旗人的，实际是清朝留下来的，所以这是旗人的衣服。
旗人的衣服
啊，就是满洲人的衣服嘛。
传统表演的时候也会用这衣服。
对你看你们说相声，我们说评书，包括唱大鼓，都穿这个。
Well, for the sake of our subtitling costs, we'll switch back to English.
Sure, of course. So it's more like a performing uniform or whatever you call it.
Yeah, so you're saying that this is actually, sometimes people will call it Tangzhuang, like Tang Dynasty clothing, but it's actually not Tang clothing.
Yeah, it's more Manchurian.
Manchurian clothing. So this is what a regular person might have worn on the street maybe a long time ago.
Right.
And so it's actually funny, like I was trying to explain to somebody, they see people come up and the robe is, they see comedians wear these robes in China.
Nowadays, yes,
comedians wear the robes.
Back ages, everyone, it's like the Chinese version of like a jeans or whatsoever.
Exactly.
Daily.
And so it's actually funny because nowadays when they see comedians come on, it looks like a performance outfit.
Right.
But actually it's pretending to be a regular person from a long time ago.
Right, exactly. Retro.
Yeah, it's retro. And back then, of course, they were just wearing that because that was what they wore.
Yeah.
And so we actually think we got these made by the same woman.
Yeah, exactly.
We were trying to guess about it. I was like,
she's making for most of the performers.
Yeah. So there's this one woman in South Beijing that runs like a basically a workshop. It's just her apartment now. She's got she originally had like this room that was all cloth, and now I went there last time in 2023. I got this made when I returned after COVID. I came back from America and I wanted to get my robes, but I found that my robes were either lost during COVID or disappeared or I couldn't find them. So I went and got new ones made. Also, I probably gained weight while I was in America.
That's what happened. That's why they custom made.
Yeah, that's why they custom make it. So, so this robe, when Chinese people see this robe and they see a performer performing, what kind of feeling does that give them? Like, what are they seeing when they see that?
They're seeing I would say most people would say this is a professional traditional art performer. They might not know if it's xiangsheng or pingshu, but at least they know they're a performer.
Yes.
And they're doing traditional folk art.
Or even kwaibar.
But that's what I say. At least it's one of the folk art they're doing.
Yeah. So then these, and then the robe, it's actually like so synonymous with comedy now that like my original logo for the U.S. China Comedy Center, we can show it here. It was like a microphone on a stand, and then the left side of the body was a Western suit, and the right side of the body was a dagua.
That's what I say, fusion.
Yeah, fusion. So, and it's really great to be able to wear this here because I don't get that many chances to wear it now. I have this really nice robe, and I don't get a chance to wear it now. Maybe I should host all the episodes of the show like this.
Sure, if you're doing this. And look at it. Look at minor details with your
So this was funny. We're sitting down to perform, and I rolled my cuffs up on the top and not the bottom, and you had your cuffs unrolled.
Yeah.
And so you said that by looking at the cuffs, you can see what art we do.
Yeah, that's you're doing xiangsheng.
Yes. So what? And you
storytelling without unfolding.
Okay.
And if you fold like this, just halfway one, like so, and both sleeves. That'll be kwaibar.
That is kwaibar.
Yeah.
And so why is it that all the sleeves are different?
They didn't explain.
Oh, I don't know. I'll tell you what I heard. I don't know if this is true or not, but I remember, I believe this is what Ding Laoshi said. Is originally, the xiangsheng started as a street performance. And so even though the performers were not beggars, if you wanted to pay them to perform, you could pay them on the street while they were performing.
Right.
And so if you have your sleeves like this, and you're in the middle of doing jokes and somebody wants to pay you can just put the coins in your pocket.
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah, you can keep coins here throughout the rest of the show. And because you're going to be like this, unless you literally do that, the coins are not going to fall out.
Okay.
So it was a way that you could basically be able to collect money.
Collect money. Okay.
Collect the money in the middle of the show without disrupting the show.
Yeah, because Pingshu we don't do on the street.
Yeah.
It's always been in one of the.
It's always been in a tea house.
At least in some covered places. And they also asking for tickets during the performance. Not like nowadays. Nowadays you pay first.
Yeah.
So it doesn't challenge the actors out because you already paid.
Yeah.
Either way, you already paid. I already got your money. So if my performance is not good, you can go.
Yeah.
But I get money.
Yeah.
But in old times. It's during the performing, one of the assistant will go down asking for tickets.
Would the performer ever lead to a cliffhanger and then say, but before I tell you what happens?
They'll do this.
They do this.
Every maybe 10, 20 minutes, they'll stop. And then the assistant will go down with, how do you call it? Polo. I don't even know the English.
How do you say that in English? Like a basket or like a...
It's a basket, sort of a basket. And then the way they hold basket, they never do this because he's begging. Means you're asking for money. You don't have any skills. So what they do instead, they hold this way.
So you need to put it in.
Yeah, and then they never say the word of money to the audience. You never say tickets, please, or can you give me $5, please? They don't ever say the word, literally the word related to the money.
Yeah.
They will say, 费心, excuse me.
Yeah.
That means because you are concentrating watching the performance, and then excuse me, can you help me with on your convenience?
Yeah, your convenience, please.
Yeah.
It's this balance between for the traditional folk artists of wanting to be seen not as beggars but as artists, and performers,
right?
表演艺术家, like a performing artist,
right.
Is kind of this interesting tension. I think in American comedy we don't have that as much because it didn't evolve out of a street performing art. Although it
not
did
even
evolve,
those one in Las Vegas.
Well, so the vaudeville, like old vaudeville, the closest to traditional xiangsheng that America has is like old vaudeville radio shows, but vaudeville before it went on the radio was a live performing tour. So it'd be like a big variety show that toured around America. They would stop at places. They would have all sorts of acts. They would have singing. They would have jokes. And the host of the show, who would be, 穿场, like, to tie the show together in vaudeville, they would have a joke, do some crowd work. That's the basis of where a lot of stand-up comedy comes from.
Okay.
Is this. But one of the acts in the show was a two-man bit. And so if you see like whatever, Abbott and Costello, you've probably seen this, who's on first? What? Yes. What? Sort of this who's on first thing.
Right.
That style is kind of the closest America has to vaudeville. I personally think that part of the reason why these styles have survived in China so well is that China really only started getting modern media in the 80s and 90s. So basically in America you had this long period of adjusting to radio, then to television, then to internet. And in China, it kind of all came at once. And so we have these older generations, or like my shifu was from a generation that, they were performing on radio and live. And, during the Cultural Revolution, he went to coal mines and performed for coal miners for 10 years. But in America, the people that were doing that in the old vaudeville days have been dead for a century.
Right.
But in China, a lot of them were still alive. And so it was really cool to be able to study under that sort of teacher. So you also studied under a teacher as well, right?
连丽如连先生. She's one of the famous storytellers in Chinese history, and she's the first female storyteller in years.
So Pingshu originally, the storytelling art form, was it originally like all male because it was a rule, or it just was that there was no women master to take other women disciples?
I think it's based on the Chinese culture. They don't allow women to go out working or communicating or socializing.
In the old days.
In the old days.
Yeah.
Even Peking opera, like Maliandao, why he's performing like a lady.
Yeah.
But nowadays you see a real female doing the Peking opera for female character. But old times, it got to be a male to perform it as a female character in the Peking opera. That's the same reason.
Even the xiangsheng is the same way. In the old days, women weren't performing xiangsheng.
Right.
And then Hou Baolian, my shiye, my master's master, was one of the first people to start to support women doing xiangsheng. And at that time, people would say, hey, 也不好看，也不太对，就感觉怎么了？ And so Hou
There's a lot of stereotype thing.
And so Hou Dashi would say the reason, 就是为什么就感觉别扭，因为女人得说女子相声。Like women should be doing women's 相声. Not to say that women's and men's 相声 are different, but if you take a woman and you just give them the comedy script a man wrote,
it won't fit. It won't fit.
And I imagine Pingshu was probably a little bit similar.
No, because as a performer storyteller, you have to do the same thing.
So
it doesn't matter you're female or male. Once you're doing
身份没有那么重要. It's a skill.
So it's more difficult for a female to perform storytelling.
Oh, you think it's more difficult?
It's much more difficult.
Why do you think so?
Because you cannot find only female characters. You have to do male characters as well.
So you got to play all the different characters. Interesting. Well, it's great that it's opening up. And so your shifu, what is the process that you went through about studying, and then did you formally apprentice?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what process did you go through?
You have to know the artist first, and then they get to know you for some time. 图访师3年, 师访图3年. That means they're investigating or watching you for 3 years to make sure you're the right person to study this kind of art form. Not only based on your skills, but also your character, your code of conduct. 人品怎么样?
先做好人.
I would imagine that's the same as 相声. So she has to watch you for 3 years. And in the meantime, you have to watch the teacher for some time, make sure this is the one I want to study with, or she got enough art or skills.
And how they are as a teacher, because the thing...
teaching is much difficult than performing.
I speak very highly of Master Ding. Obviously, he was an amazing comedian. But beyond being a comedian, he was one of the top 3 teachers of any subject I've ever had.
That takes much more
It's very difficult.
Effort.
Ding Lao Shi, he had this ability to look at somebody and know what challenge do I give them that's hard enough that they will really have to try, but it's achievable.
Yeah.
And to do that over a period of time, to break down a big problem into small problems, and then each small problem, they all seemed so hard.
Yeah.
But you achieve them all eventually.
Yeah. So that's make him a great educator.
Yeah.
Rather than performer, because I would say majority of those kind of old generation performers don't even get students.
Yeah.
They don't want to teach.
Yeah. It's hard to teach, and it's a big responsibility.
Not only that, they don't want to lose the job.
Yeah.
That's why the major reason they don't want to teach students. If I teach you one particular thing like storytelling,
you can take my gigs now.
Yeah. No, for storytelling, if I teach you storytelling, Three Kingdoms, for instance, you learn that. You can perform on stage, you can make money off that. Then as the teacher, I cannot no longer do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because so you can't be telling the same stories your students are telling.
If I give you the story, you own the story, you're going to do that. So I have to change to another story.
This is kind of like a low-tech version of Don't Steal Jokes. Or
exactly,
like that, right?
More or less, yeah. So they don't normally teach students.
Yeah, you really need a lot of skill. I mean, people have asked me sometimes, like, oh, do you take disciples in Xiangsheng? I'm like, oh, I'm not there.
Yeah.
It's not just... Like, I actually do enjoy teaching, as I'm sure people who watch me teach tea stuff know. But to be able to truly teach Xiangsheng is very difficult.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of thing. I know, more Xiangsheng than most Americans, but not like 30, 40, 50, 60 routines. I don't know 60 Xiangsheng routines.
Right.
So if I give other people these routines, especially in California, they do these routines. We can't have just one Xiangsheng routine going on in California.
Yeah.
So this is a consideration, but your teacher, you looked at her, she looked at you, you kind of decided it was going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
What was the actual process of apprenticing like?
Well, you have to start as volunteer. You not only helping in the theater, for preparing the tickets, the chairs and table, and cleaning the teapots, picking up the snacks in the morning, picking up the teacher, drive them to the theater, and then, not to mention after the show, you clean up again, send them to home, etc. But in the meantime, you also buy tickets.
Yeah.
You're not free to listen. Yeah. You also buy the tickets to listen to them, and they don't normally teach you like invite you to their home and teach you a particular section or techniques.
A lot of it is just being able to be around them to hear the thing.
Actually it's more like my teacher always say, 听书就是学术. Just listen.
Yeah.
Listen, and then you study yourself. And then you can perform. There's no easy way or shortcut.
Well, that was, for me, what I was saying for Xiangsheng as well, when I started to study and then formally apprenticed, I was surprised at how useful it was just to listen. It's something, maybe it's very un-American. I think in America we're like, oh, if you're going to be doing jokes, you got to start talking day one.
Right.
And Ding Lao Shi invited me to introduce myself to the group, so it wasn't like I was literally saying nothing. But it was very clear the first couple months, really half a year of studying with Master Ding was like, okay, if you learn your lines and you're building, great. But I'm not expecting anything of you until you've heard many, many hours of Xiangsheng before. It's just like, there's no point even in teaching you, oh, say that word louder. Like that was never.
Right. That's never the way to teach. Yeah.
So it was expected that you would be doing your lines and learning all your stuff.
Right.
It was just expected.
Right.
And then it was never even really discussed like particular jokes. Do this faster, do that slower. Yeah, it takes a lot longer to get to...
But in the meantime, when you're learning, actually your teacher is observing, watching you silently.
Yeah.
And they know when you can perform, when you can go on stage. Yeah. And out of nowhere, they'll say, suddenly, you can perform tomorrow.
Yeah, 周四你有空吗?
It's just
like, are you free on Thursday? I'm like, oh, that means we have a show on Thursday.
Exactly. I was like the same thing. Yeah, and then go for it.
Yeah. Exactly. So it was really, Ding Lao Shi, again, one of the best teachers I've ever had. One thing he did so well was this. He did it with me, but I also saw later with other students that he took on, was he would work to be able to get to the point where you could do one thing well enough to perform.
Right.
So even if it was a 45-second 贯口, like,大宋朝文言博幼儿都有灌学浮球之志, 你懂的啊. But even if it was just learning one 贯口, like monologue, he would get you to the point where you could do that monologue, and then maybe they had an opportunity that comes up to do a group performance.
Right.
And then say, well, all 4 of these disciples have studied something. What have you been studying? 我学小孩子。什么是小孩子？
我不知道，你说说，你听听。
我说说，你听听，
再想当主呀。
So then you go into the show that way. And so it allowed people, even though it might take half a year or a year to get to the point where you can do 45 seconds.
Right.
But by that time, you were really learning much more than the thing.
Yeah.
Could you have memorized it quicker? Yes. But could you really do it?
Not yet.
Not yet. So that was the thing that was a little bit different. And American comedy culture is very different in this sense.
How so?
In American comedy culture, it's like, it's very unusual for anybody to do comedy whose story doesn't sound like, well, I thought I was funny, so I went to an open mic and I started performing and I liked it. Like, that's just how it starts. You go to an open mic, you're like, I can do that. 5 minutes, something, blah, blah, blah.
So it's a fast food culture, right?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even say that. I think there's different parts of it that I admire in both. I admire in the Chinese tradition that it's done with a real teacher and a real guide, because I know a lot of American artists, some of whom are even now kind of rich and famous, but they never had a base. They've been swimming this whole time.
I see your point.
They
didn't start walking.
Yeah, and then the celebrities do crazy things. Well, part of the reason is they didn't get to watch 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of somebody be a professional.
Right.
I saw Ding Laoshi, professional. If he has a thing on Saturday afternoon, he's there every time.
Yeah.
If he has shows, I see how he deals with the TV station people.
Yeah.
I see how he deals with the people that pick him up in the car. I see how he talks to the director of the show.
It's a role model thing, right? Yeah.
So I see the entirety of how to be a professional.
Yeah.
So
he's not only teaching you the art itself, he's also teaching
how to be a 相声 performer.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a whole thing, but it's also 先做好人, like
exactly.
It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
So the result is when you do those 45 seconds, you know that, okay, I may not be doing a lot and I may not be doing it well, but I am doing the real thing.
Right.
Whereas in America, I think that you can get sometimes even very big or very famous, and you see a lot of people that still struggle with confidence, that still struggle with like, why am I doing this? Because they start so early. Now, I will say the good part about the American system is that in China, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, if I don't have a master or I don't have a teacher, I can't even start.
Right, that's what I think, yeah.
And that's a lot of people think that. Whereas I like the American system that it's like,
I can do it.
Yeah. And you don't need to know anyone, especially for stand-up. Like, you just need to show up at a bar and say, how do I sign up?
I want to do it.
Yeah, and then the culture is like, you can't go to the best comedy club and do that, but somewhere
will take you, right?
Somewhere will take you, and it's like, it almost would be weird if you didn't do that.
Right.
Like, so I talked to Wong, Joe Wong, who's a Chinese comedian. He's been on the podcast. And he started doing stand-up by a community class at essentially a high school. That is I was like, that's such a Chinese story. Because his idea was like, I want to do this comedy. And as a Chinese person, he's like, where do I take a class?
Right.
So I've kind of had this change of mind. When I started teaching comedy in China, I originally didn't have any classes.
Right.
Because my thinking was like, if you're going to do the American comedy, do it the American way. If you really want to study, come to this open mic and I'll put you up. But nobody came.
That won't work that way, yeah.
And then eventually I came to the conclusion that it was actually better for everybody. It was better for me because I could teach classes and make money. It was better for the students because they felt more confidence when they went up on stage for the first time.
Yeah.
At least I've studied 15 hours.
Right.
It's
because it's different cultural background. Because in States, unless you start doing those orientation things in high school, college, it give you a time to to study, setting up your, building up your confidence.
Exactly.
But in China, in high school, they don't normally do those kind of things.
No.
Orientations or
That's the other thing you take for granted. Like, you know, I was in a school where I had music and arts class in elementary school. I had acting class in middle school. I was in a musical in middle school. I was part of a performance troupe in high school.
Right.
And so when I get to China and people are like, oh, go on stage. Like, I've actually done a lot of this, even if I haven't done it professionally. But in China, there's no arts curriculum.
Yeah, exactly.
So like,
so it's very difficult for them to like just go on stage and do a talk.
Like, what? Like, no, like you wouldn't just tell somebody like, you know, write a poem right now and you've never written anything.
Exactly.
So what do you think though about the benefits versus the good and the bad of the official apprenticeship system for learning? What do you feel was really good for you that you officially apprenticed and learned with the master? And what do you feel like actually I think some of this is outdated and we have better educational techniques?
Honestly speaking, I never think it's outdated. I'm an old school person. I think it got to be this way. Because as we talked before, they're not only teaching you the art itself. You're studying storytelling or xiangsheng whatsoever, the art itself. But in the meantime, the teacher will be a role model for you, how to deal with people. And then it helps you to understand how to communicate, how to understand people. And then you can perform better, and then you can be a good person.
In addition to being an artist.
You can learn this, but not to be a professional storyteller. You can, like for me, take me for example. I learned storytelling not only because I want to be a storytelling performer. I also want to learn something from those Chinese culture, the way they deal with people, the way they talk to people, into my business. How you deal with your clients, how you manage your company.
So it's just like you, like the identity of being a traditional folk artist performer is a good thing to do in your business as well. And you're totally right.
Yeah.
Like because even the way I do my tea, oftentimes when I'm meeting a new tea farmer, I don't tell them, oh, I have X followers in America. I tell them I'm Ding Guangquan's disciple.
Exactly.
And I'm a xiangsheng performer.
It attracts you more business opportunities.
Yeah. And it's not just because of the business. It's like, that's who I am. Even here, it's like, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, are you worried about people on the internet that are going to say, oh, it's cultural appropriation, you're wearing a robe, you're not Chinese. And I was like, no, I'm a disciple of Ding Guangquan. You know, I am not a master, but I studied with a master, a true master of how to do culture, comedy and culture together. So if I can't figure this out, you know, it can't be done.
Right, exactly. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and so that gives me a lot of confidence to say,
confidence, that's
not
the word.
that I will never make mistakes, because you can always make mistakes. But I think that if I have confidence that if I make a mistake and somebody tells me about it, I will really be able to say, like, you know what? You're right.
Right.
Like, you know, what I'm doing, it's not magic because I've learned with the master.
Right.
It's the magic is that they've taught you to be a type of person. And that is the type of person that hopefully, you know, does tea well, does podcasting well, does
widening your way to do a lot of things. And once again, I said it's more like jazz. Once you know the form, you can transform anything into jazz music.
Exactly.
So storytelling or xiangsheng, it's just a way of doing things. I did one of the orientation for museum conference in the form of storytelling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in New Orleans.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans.
So how did that work? So
there's every year they have annual American Association of Museums, because we're in the museum business. So they invite different people from different fields, like shipping companies or museums, give a certain topic, how to ship artworks from China, for instance. And then I read some article, they say you can do that. I say, why don't I make some fun?
Oh, nice.
So I do in the robe.
So you wear the robe.
Fans.
Yep.
And the 定场诗 in English. So if because it's in America, I do something American. From the hall of Montezuma to the shore of Tripoli. It's the first verse of the U.S. Marine hymn.
Wow.
So the American, of course, the museum, they know, so they applaud. But further than that, as I said, storytelling is not itself. So it's how to deal with people. So before I started talking, I socialize with different museums. No matter I know, I don't know, I give them a business card. And then I say tomorrow at 10 o'clock, in which stadium I'm going to speak about this art, please come.
Oh, wow.
Because I buy you a coffee.
No, that's
so
great. That's great.
business.
So like, how to do this all together.
Yeah.
I think the identity of, even now, even though I make my living selling tea on the internet, in my identity, I still think of myself as a xiangsheng performer.
Yeah.
And there's so much that comes along with that. I want to talk about these
props.
The props.
Yeah.
So why don't you share the props these are the props that you would bring to do traditional Beijing storytelling?
Right.
Is that right?
Right. So this, how should I call it? A wake up or
like xingmu, like the wake up block, something like that, which I have as well. One from my xiangsheng days.
So that's where you start your performance, get attention. So like attention deck, I'm gonna start my my performance.
Yeah.
But during the performance, it can be anything.
Yeah.
It can be yinzi, jinzi,
So
gold, or
gold ingot, silver ingot,
or a drinking cup, like a teacup. Can be.
So it's also kind of
it can be anything.
A catch-all prop for like this is the zhubao, or like this is like the jewelry or whatever it needs to be given,
or a cup or a glass or whatsoever you can drink. You can do anything. So it can transform into anything you want.
Anything except a fan.
Yeah.
Because you have a fan.
Yeah. The fan. First of all, you see, there's nothing on it. For a professional storyteller, you cannot use the fan with anything on it.
Really? Why?
Yeah, why? Because it's gonna steal your show.
Yeah,
because when I start doing that, people will watch. Oh, what kind of thing on it? Is this a picture?
That's
or
super clever.
Yeah.
No, because it's a great way to attract attention. So you attract the attention, and then people are looking for information, and they see nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really the talking.
Exactly. Otherwise, you will see. Oh, what kind? Who give the?
Who wrote the fan?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like me now trying to attract people's attention. In stand-up, it's difficult. You don't have the fan.
Right. So you can start doing that.
Maybe I should do that with my stand-up. I should start coming on. And,
exactly. And then there's a new show, new form of,
Yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? Why not try it? I should give that a try.
Anything, my idea is, my theory is, anything new, anything that other people never tried will attract more business.
Yes.
Like what I do is storytelling for a museum convention orientation.
That's a new idea.
Yeah.
So what do you feel as a traditional artist? How do you balance where you want the new and where you want the keep the old?
The old is the basic. If you change the basic thing, the whole thing will change. Different thing.
So every performer has to have their own idea about what is basic, or do you feel like there's certain things like if you're not wearing a robe, it's not Pingshu. If you don't have your props, it's not Pingshu. Is it? Where do you draw the line?
No, it's not. It's not about a prop or what you dress. It's about all those traditional core values you learned from your teacher. The basic things, how to perform, the rhythm, the way you perform, the way you talk, like Kuaibar, right?
Yeah.
The 折韵.
Yeah.
So, and if you know those are basic, and you know the basic, you can do anything in that. You can do your tea, you can do the fine art shaping, you can do maybe a cheeseburger, whatsoever you wanted.
I like that idea.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to transform those things into combine with your basics.
Definitely. So that's really cool. And so
the fan can be, if as a professional performer, you don't do this. Today I'm going to teach you a storytelling about Three Kingdoms, Sun Quan. Once you use that during the performance, it got to be a prop, it got to be something. So this can be a spear. 双脚一踹蹬蹬在板上，啪摔杆就是一枪。That's a spear. Or 劈刀就砍。That's a 刀。大刀，青龙偃月刀。
Big knife.
Yeah. Or a 剑。
Sword.
Yeah.
So this
it can be anything.
So it's anything but a fan.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or maybe a letter.
Yeah.
Or a show.
Okay. So that's cool. So like, you received the word from
maybe
Liu Bei, whatever.
Oh, this. Meanwhile, you have to perform as you're reading.
Yeah.
So you have to go this way.
You go, yeah. So those sort of things.
It's a combination of the prop and your eye contact, your face making. A lot of things you can. If you do this, it won't work.
So
you have to make people believe you're reading, because actually there's nothing on it. You have to make your audience think there are things on that.
Yeah. And then these props, are they like every Pingshu performance, every storytelling performance is the same props, or you can use one and not the other, or use all of them together? You also have a cloth here.
Yeah, cloth here can be also can be a letter or clothes, like xiangsheng. You use those as
Yeah.
So it's all the props. But normally we don't have to use this.
Yeah.
Most likely those two are enough. But majority of time you're just talking.
Yeah. In xiangsheng, you'll definitely have your xingmu, and then you could also have a fan and cloth. This fan in particular is one that was given to me by my shifu when I apprenticed. So when I studied with Master Ding from 2011, we could say, until 2018 when he passed away. And in 2014, he finally said, okay, you can formally apprentice
So it takes you 4 years.
Took 3 years, but we'll say really 2. I mean, I think by the end of his life, he was a little bit like, let's get a couple more in there. Traditionally, it would take much longer. But Master Ding as well, all those things that you said about how to be a good disciple, I did them too. I had to learn how to fold the dagua, like fold the robe correctly, which apparently I didn't do very well the first time. I still struggle with. This says over here, 爱解析徒弟, so disciple Jesse upheld, disciple 爱解析拜师留念, so a piece of 留念, like a memory of apprenticeship.
Right.
And then we have over here the Xiangsheng Society seal. We have Ding Lao Shi's personal seal. And then Shi Ding Guangquan, so Master Ding Guangquan. 2014年6月21. So on June 21st of 2014. And then here it says 弄月嘲风, so sort of joke the moon and satirize the wind.
Right.
The idea being that everything between the moon and the wind is what we want to be talking about, joking about. And if you're the type of person who can joke about all that sort of stuff in the middle, that is what a xiangsheng performer is.
Exactly.
Is there when it comes to apprenticeship in Pingshu, are there any particular things that you get as an apprentice?
Yeah, you get those things from your teacher, but I don't use that on stage. That's for it's like
the actual one that you're given by your teacher.
You don't use that on stage. You just the most cheapest one you use, because it's can be broken anytime, because you're always doing this or this. You don't want to get your teacher.
I was almost afraid to put that up in general, but I figured that I really wanted it up here in my tea area, as you can tell.
Because I just collect those in the box.
Yeah. So that was in a very small box of items I definitely did not want to lose during the pandemic when I got locked out of the country in China and I couldn't get all my stuff. I sent somebody to break into my house to get my company.
Seriously?
Yeah, because I had the only key. So I told somebody, I was like, find a locksmith, we'll be on the phone, I'll tell them, I'll show them the key if they want, but we need to break that lock because I need my company stamps for Gaizhang so I can get my visa, and I want to make sure I do not lose the fan that Master Ding gave me. It was basically after those two things, I was like, what else matters in my life?
Because the most important things,
Exactly. So, so this has been really great to have you here, and thank you again so much for your performance.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If people want to follow you, do you do social media or anything?
Not really. I'm not.
So we'll have to bring you in front of the audience again.
Delighted.
That would be a lot of fun.
Delighted.
For those of you who are also just new to the show, thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. We didn't talk too much about the tea. How did you like the tea?
Fantastic.
Was it
fantastic.
Good?
Yeah.
I should have made some Beijing like Moli Hua Cha.
Because we have a lot of topic to talk.
Yeah. We should have you back on again to talk about the fine art world. We didn't talk about any of that.
Yeah, definitely. Delighted.
But it's always good to have more tea friends and more performers.
Pleasure.
You know, I feel like I owe a lot to not just to Ding Lao Shi and to Xiangsheng, but also all of the qi, all of the performing arts in China, because
that can be a topic we can talk to.
Yeah, that's a good topic to talk about. I mean, I started doing this. This was my first job after school.
Wow.
It was being a Fulbright scholar researching Xiangsheng. And so I really got my whole start as a performer.
Wow.
Including doing things in the future, like running podcasts with 4 cameras, drinking tea. based off of the traditional Chinese artists that gave me my start.
Sure.
So I definitely, anything I can do to support the traditional Chinese arts here in America, I will do. So for those of you who are interested in the tea, all of this tea stuff, including the Three Treasures white tea that we drank today, the Bluestone tea table set, even our tea pets, which I'm now just realizing were hidden behind the dude the whole time. Oh no. They should have been there.
There we go. There we
They
go.
should have been there, including the tea pets. All of that stuff is on my website, jessie'steahouse.com. That's the best way you can support the channel, is to go to jessie'steahouse.com and get some great tea for yourself. We have instructions on how to steep the teas. We have, if you break any of these pieces that come from our set, we have backups. We'll send you to them. We want to make it really easy for people to get into tea and tea culture. So other than that, I think we're all good. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate that and enjoy the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one, and we'll see you next week on Tea Time with Jesse.